Welcome to Beyond Synth. Please note, Beyond Synth is an explicit program and may contain inappropriate language. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Hey there, welcome to the show. My name is Andy Last, and this is Beyond Synth, the best synthwave chat show there is. And that is the catchphrase that I've decided is the catchphrase of Beyond Synth. So there you go, episode 89. Beyond Synth has a catchphrase, and it is Beyond Synth, the best synthwave chat show there is. Ain't that the truth? Alright guys, this is episode 89 of Beyond Synth. Today my guests are returning champions, The Midnight. And they had a cool album they released last year, and we are going to talk about it. So they've been on the show before. If you want to get some of the more biographical information about The Midnight, because they are super talented, you can listen to episode... Jesus, what episode were they on? Hold on. It was not episode Jesus. I don't number my show that way. Let's see here. Episode episode 53. They were on episode 53. So you can go back and check that one out if you want to know all about how the Midnight was formed and why. That's the big question. Why? Why the hell are you doing this? You can find that out in episode 53 of Beyond Synth. But today, they are returning, and the only reason why I preface this when I have returning guests is because I don't really go through the motions of like reintroducing people very well. So if it's your first time listening to The Midnight and I sort of jump in as if I already know who they are, because I do, I'm not sitting there going like, okay, now you're Tim, now which one's Tim and which one's Tyler? You know, I just sort of jump in assuming that you know. So go back and listen to episode 53. Alrighty, you done? Okay, back to episode 89. So guys, we're going to talk to The Midnight in just a little bit. Just a quick reminder that Beyond Synth, of course, is brought to you by Down to Jam, a free website that helps musicians around the world connect based on musical compatibility. If you're a musician looking for a partner to jam with or to fill a spot in your band, you're going to want to check out this site and sign up, downtojam.com. And we also have a new sponsor today. Very exciting stuff. So now I'm going to go into sponsorship mode. You love the Drive soundtrack. Even after 5 years, you probably still play it a couple times a month. You've probably memorized every colorful synth and ecstatic ARP in every nook and cranny of every song. And the vocals, those gorgeous vocals. But do you know the story behind the album and what the artists think of it now? What impact did Drive have on the lives of College, Electric Youth, Johnny Jewel, and Cliff Martinez? For that matter, how did Drive change the careers of musicians like Miami Nights 1984, May Thelvin, Profiles, and Highway Superstar? You can find out all of that and more at Velingo.com, your place for all those things that make you dance, cry, and fall in love, where big-time composers hang out with up-and-coming producers. Go to driveat5.com. That's driveatfive.com and check out Velingo. Driveat5.com. All right, let's listen to some music. Here is a track by Future Fate off the album Fat Synthesizer, and this is Midnight Haze. And that was Midnight Haze by Future Fate. And that is a cool track off the Fat Synthesizer album. I dig it, you should dig it too. And while you're digging things, why don't you like Beyond Synth on Facebook? That's facebook.com/beyond.synth.podcast. All those likes fill up my belly with like goodness. I'm actually rubbing my stomach. I'm doing the gesture to myself. Anyways, like the Facebook page. That's a good chap or lady. What's the lady version of chap? Like when you say like, hello, old chap. Hello, old lady. You can also check out, obviously, soundcloud.com/beyond-synth. That's where all the episodes get posted. And check out Andy Last on Twitter. That's my Twitter account, but that's basically the Twitter account for Beyond Synth. I don't really say personal things on there too often. Although I did the other day, just because I got really frustrated with a movie that had this shitty fucking title, and now everyone's boycotting it anyways because I guess they like tried to like chuck a dog into like a whirlpool or something. I haven't watched the video. You know, honestly, I've watched so little viral videos. I always see people talking about them and they just fucking depress me, you know, where it's just like, oh, you want to see that video of like the behind the scenes where the zookeeper like beat the shit out of that monkey and got fired? I'm like, no, why would I? What do I want to see that for? Anyway, this movie's called A Dog's Purpose, which is the worst fucking title I've ever heard. Next to When the Game Stands Tall. There was a movie about football last year called When the Game Stands Tall, which is, without a doubt, one of the worst titles I've ever heard. I don't think I need to go into why they're terrible titles, but A Dog's Purpose is like, you know when sometimes a movie comes out and it's got a title that's a little on the nose, pun intended, and, you know, people are like, well, that's a little, you know, on the, like, A Dog's Purpose. Is that even considered on the nose? Like, that is just, like, here's what the, it just drives me nuts. I can't even articulate how much I dislike that title. So people are boycotting it now anyways because they tried to, you know, like throw a dog into some turbulent water. And that's a fair reason to boycott something. Like they shouldn't be fucking hurting animals to make a dumbass film. But I suggest also boycotting the film because of the terrible title and make them know that we will not stand for titles like this, and also animal abuse is wrong. Let's listen to another track. I always feel bad when I say something really stupid and then throw to somebody's song, because then if they're going to be like, hey, you can listen to my track on this podcast, and right before their song plays, it's like me talking about people throwing dogs into pools. And anyways, here's a track. This is by Annie Bacon. Now, I think she normally does like folk kind of music, but she also has some people that do remixes of her tracks and give them a more sort of synth-wavy kind of vibe. I believe it's a producer who goes by Do I Dare. And here's a track. This is Annie Bacon, What We Said, the Do I Dare remix. And that was Annie Bacon with What We Said, the Do I Dare remix. And I think Do I Dare remixed a few of her tracks. And you know, I always like that when you have artists that aren't necessarily part of the synthwave scene, but they have sort of unique vocal styles or whatever, and then it gets blended with the synthwave. You know, that's something that I've always really dug because, you know, there's certain vocal styles that are like, I'm not going to say expected, you know, but there's certain vocals where you're just like, yes, that totally suits, you know, the synthwave vibe or that retro 80s kind of vibe. And then there's other times where, because I simply love electronic music, that when you take that synthwave and you take unique sounding vocals, it sounds really cool. And I always like that aspect, you know, kind of like Mears, you know, Michelle Mears from Blushes. You know, when I first heard that track, it just sounded really unique and cool. And I think she's doing some interesting solo stuff now as well. So that's cool. So let's, what do you want to do here? Let's go to the mail sack. Hey, today the mail sack is brought to you by Velingo.com. I don't know, just when someone sponsors the show, I'll just say every segment is brought to you by Velingo. But remember, that's driveat5.com. So let's let's open up the mail sack.
Ye faithful listeners writing to the show, hoping that your note gets picked from us.
This was a letter from Bit Apart, and after he sent me this message, he also sent another one saying, do you know you got a Solid Snake voice sometimes when announcing a track on your podcast? That's really awesome. Can you read the letter in your Solid Snake voice? And then in brackets, just kidding. Well, I'm gonna try. I don't do this very often because it hurts my throat. That's not all it hurt. Am I leaving that in? Okay. Now keep in mind, I can only ever do a Solid Snake voice when I say the word Metal Gear, Metal Gear, Otacon, Metal Gear, Meryl. So that's my Metal Gear voice. So let me try and gravel this up. So the Bit Apart says, he's written some letters before. Thanks for answering my questions on your show. I thought I sent you a message about my opinion on VR. I played it on the HTC from a friend and knew I have to have such a system. Compared to the HTC, the PSVR is less expensive, but still expensive. Meryl. So if you ever try VR, I recommend you try Job Simulator. That game works well in VR. Also Eve Valkyrie, or Battlezone, which is in a Tron-like universe, and especially London Heist. It is true you get motion sickness from certain games, but you pretty much notice it in the beginning. You begin to feel a bit uncomfortable. Otacon. I got motion sickness after playing Battlezone an hour, but it seems your brain gets used to the VR, and since playing in VR is really exhausting and intense, an hour gameplay is fine for me. All in all, I think they did very well in trying to reduce motion sickness. There is no head movement unless you turn your head when walking. The tanks in Battlezone VR are also not moving up and down like we expect from a tank when driving, but since every person is different, it's hard to say if you get motion sickness from a game. So far, it is the best VR experience I tried. It feels like the future and is really immersive. Of course, your idea of augmented reality would be the ultimate future. Look forward to your next podcast. Have a great day. Best regards from Switzerland, Pietro Francesco. Metal Gear. All right, thanks, buddy. That hurt my throat. But yeah, that's interesting to know because I haven't tried the VR yet, and it's still something that I'm just sitting there like, how have I not tried this yet? You know what I mean? I'm 35 years old. You think someone would have just stumbled into my house with a VR set and say, you know, try this? But most of the time, it's just people stumbling into my house telling me to try heroin. Anyways, if you want your letters read on the show, send me a letter. Just title it Mail Sack. You can send me a direct message to Twitter on the Beyond Synth Facebook page and the SoundCloud page and just title the message Mail Sack and I'll read it in the Mail Sack. Now, here is a track from Hubrid off the album Prototype, and this track is called Horizon. And that was Horizon by Hubrid off the album Prototype. And in fact, I think Hubrid is French, so it's possible that he pronounces it Hubrid, comme ça, but I'm gonna say Hubrid because that sounds a little more badass than Hubrid. Hey, je m'appelle Hubrid. J'ai fait la musique Champs-Élysées. All right, that's it. Hey guys, let's go to the Patreon. All right, you know I got Patreon supporters, and let's talk about them.
Now you better listen up, 'cause I'ma tell you what the deal. Do that's mood to show up on Patreon, that's for real. Subscribing, you belong up in the higher echelon. Now let's see who gave money on Patreon.
Alright guys, Beyond Synth has a Patreon, alright? It's patreon.com/Beyond Synth. If you like the show and want to support it, you can check out the patreon.com/Beyond Synth, and there's lots of different levels of donation, and they all have really terrible prizes, but every little bit helps. So, I mean, if you want to just donate $1 a month, you can do that. Some people have donated higher amounts, and they get different perks, such as being able to listen to Beyond Synth episodes early, get a special video shout out, and of course through the Patreon you can also sponsor Beyond Synth, and those are different tiers for that as well. So let's thank my lovely patrons. As always, I'd like to thank Power85, Brendan Kellum, Rivonia, Bending Unit 22. I fucking get stuck on that one every time. Bending Unit 22, Lunar Baboon, Knox Bellow, Terrence Thompson, Nathan Winter, Russ Nyes, Data Suck or Data Suck, Seach, The Fear Merchant, Simon Norberg, Kanaz, Argen 1981, Russell Hugo, Nougat Ninja, Kyle, Night Raptor, Mitch Wiseman, Katner, Girls with Tails, Zycorax, I90RR, Python Blue, Eric Valerio, Tomasz Bubinicek, Common Synths, Chris Schmokel, and now we're gonna go to my lovely $5 Pattersons. These guys donate $5 a month because they are cool. There's Kai, there's Saloya, and Lucas Ceballos, X-Riz Music, Joe and Lando, Roman, Philip Huberger, Devious Raven, Bobby B, John Eternal, Will Lowe, Dougie Fresh, Lame Robot, Mono Memory, Replicant 81, Florence Bullock, Matthew Lister. Wait, is that new? Hope you guys enjoyed that. Matthew Lister, that looks like a new donor. Hey buddy, thanks for donating to Beyond Synth. It means a lot to me. You're a cool guy, Matthew Lister, and I hope you go on to do great things. And then there's Hellroy with the donation of the Beast. And now my lovely $10 Pattersons. There's Jake Last, Trevor Resnick, Colin Bennett, Jacob Wick, Fraser Davidson, and Victor Garza. Thanks everyone for donating to Beyond Synth. That's patreon.com/Beyond Synth. If you want to donate to the show and get a shout out, maybe even get a video shout out depending on how much you want to donate. And if you want to sponsor the show, speaking of which, today's show is sponsored by driveat5.com. So go to driveat5.com, damn it! Find out some cool stuff and all that shit that goes on there. Driveat5.com. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for donating to the Patreon. Let's listen to another track. This is Nightwave with Hyper Reality. And that was Nightwave off the album Alpha. And that was the track Hyper Reality. And you are listening to Beyond Synth. And I got the Midnight coming up in just a bit. Or, you know what? Let's just go to the Midnight now. Man, I got no rules here. There ain't no rules on Beyond Synth. It's fucking lawless, man. Although, within that lawlessness, there's a very strict and basic structure. But anyways, thank you guys for listening to Beyond Synth. Here is my conversation with returning champions, The Midnight. All right, and I am here with the Midnight again, returning champions. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
What's up?
The Midnight, of course, is Tyler Lyle and Tim McCune. Did I say it correctly that time?
McCune.
That sounded right with a very Scottish accent. McEwen, basically.
McCune,
yeah. Pretty straightforward.
You're a pretty straightforward Scottish guy.
Exactly. Well, I'm mostly Danish, I think. I couldn't speak Scottish if my life depended on it.
So what's been... what's terrible opening?
I'm sorry. I'm making noises with my coffee cup here. Let me remove my... Okay, we can cut that out.
No, I don't cut anything out in this show. That's rule number one. So you guys make awesome music, and you're back because you guys released an album a little while ago that we're going to talk about. I should also point out you guys are in different cities. If this is the first time you've listening to The Midnight, you should go back in time and listen to the first time they were on, because that's going to be the one with all the biographical information and all that stuff. This is a catch-up, but of course, Tim is in LA and Tyler is in New York.
Yes, sir.
That's all the biographical information you're going to get today. So what's been going on? Maybe I'll just bounce between you two guys here. But Tyler, what have you been doing?
Oh man, a lot of stuff. I was on the road a good bit this fall. Played a festival and some weddings and a lot of traveling. I do a little podcast, so I've been working on that. And then Tim came to New York. This was in October, and we started to lay the foundation of our upcoming live shows. So That's what I've been up to.
How much preparation goes into that?
A whole lot, Andy. A whole lot.
And that's that.
Well, right, because I mean, if you're in like different cities, right? Obviously, you're not necessarily going to be able to jam necessarily. So, like, do you guys have like a block of time set where you're going to get together? And
I flew to New York. I was there for 4 days, like 3 nights, I think it was, and it was basically just to carve out some time where we could just be in the same room and sit down and go, okay, how the hell are we going to do this? So a lot of obviously Tyler's been performing out for so many years and is just such a veteran at it. So it's very helpful for me because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So most of it is me figuring out the technical side of things because it's not going to be a live band kind of situation. It's going to be more working off of tracks and me playing around with filters in the background while Tyler's the sort of the front man. It was really kind of just playing around with there's a program called Mainstage, which is what we'll probably end up using. And that was kind of just figuring out, well, what songs are we going to be performing at and when should we aim for our first gig? Like what time, like how long will it take me to get this ready and for us to be able to maybe rehearse a bit and all that stuff. So just the kind of basics and the general logistics of it. But I think we were talking about maybe doing I don't know if I could call it a tour, but something come summertime. And by that time we should have played a few gigs here and there. I constantly get people asking me, when are you performing in DC and New York and Canada and LA and stuff. So there is a demand and we've been wanting to do it for a while. It's just getting in a room and sitting down together and go, well, how are we going to do this? So that's kind of what that was for.
So when you were in New York then, were you sleeping on Tyler's couch?
Oh, we spooned. That's how we did it.
He came in the bed, my wife and I, and then Tim.
No, they have a lovely little apartment. Well, it's not little. It's massive. No, they have a great new place. They just moved to. It's considered in Brooklyn, right? Tyler, have I got my geographics wrong?
One would consider it Brooklyn, yes.
Okay, well, one does. I do, and so I crashed on a mattress in the living room, and it was like sleeping in a palace.
So So, like, what's your address, Tyler, and what's your home phone number?
My social security number and credit cards read as follows. No, I live in a beautiful little neighborhood called Park Slope on 5th Ave. We moved here a few months ago, and it's very nice to live in a good neighborhood. We moved from a less good neighborhood, so.
I've never felt comfortable living in, like, I've lived in some sketchy neighborhoods, and it's one of those things that I think it's worth the price sometimes to just, oh man, if you're going to pay a bit more rent, but it means like when you walk out your door, you don't feel like you're about to get murdered.
Well, New York is different because you're, smushed. That's how you say it. If you live in the burbs and you live in kind of like a dumpy neighborhood, like you still got your house and your car and like things are safe and you got your own little kingdom. But here, everybody's smushed together, and so if you live in a little bit worse neighborhood, it's way more a part of your everyday life than if you live out in the burbs.
That's also the interesting thing about cities in general. I mean, like, I'm in Toronto. And it's funny how, like, there's just these sections where it's just sketchy, and then you literally just cross the road, and then it becomes, like, a nice part of town.
Right.
And then somehow the sketchy people sort of, like, stay within their boundaries, like there's some sort of, like, invisible electric fence. And it's fascinating. Anyway, let's...
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody who doesn't want to pay $5 for their coffee will ever go into the $5 coffee shop.
That's a good point.
It's called gentrification, Andy. This is... it's good and bad. I forgot that you were in Toronto, though. My wife's sister, which I guess would be my sister-in-law, is in town from Toronto, and she speaks very highly of that city. It's been a while, but I want to go back to Toronto.
Yeah, no, Toronto's okay. Although I don't really do anything.
No?
I talk about just like, oh, it's nice to live in there, but really, I'm just a guy with kids, I just stay at home and play video games.
That sounds great.
Let's listen. Let's listen to some music.
Oh, okay.
And then we will talk some more. So, of course, we are talking today about the album Endless Summer by The Midnight, and we're going to listen to the titular Endless Summer track right now. So this is Endless Summer by The Midnight.
Such mad crescendo, 4 bare feet on a rain-soaked street, summer air brushed fever dreams. camouflage? Why do the bad girls never last? Lost in gin and lemonade, electro spins in the mermaid parade. Quartets and no regrets, except for the Polaroids I left. You were just some spell I was under. That in this summer, 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 summer,
And that was Endless Summer by The Midnight. And I'm here with The Midnight right now, Tim McEwen and Tyler Lyle.
Hey.
We're talking about gentrification, which is what I imagine we would all be talking about today. I live in a very sort of, that's what my neighborhood is. They're slowly fixing it all up, and there's lots of nice little, like, lesbian-owned, like, fresh food markets and stuff.
They're the best.
Yeah.
They're the best.
Anyways, man, Tim, what have you been doing? I saw on the Midnight Facebook feed that you just got a new television.
I did, and someone got very mad at me for posting a picture of it.
Why?
Because he was saying, "Oh God, just get a personal page already. No one gives a shit about your TV." And it hit me hard on an emotional level, but I have to now deal with the consequences of the fact that no one cares about my TV other than myself and my dog.
I love that someone can appreciate you as an artist, but then still be mad if you say anything that is like just slightly unrelated.
Yeah,
it's just funny to me.
yeah, he was very rude, and I was kind of taken aback by the amount of anger from a picture of a TV. But hey, we all have our issues and our baggage. He might have been abused by a TV when he was a kid. You never know. So there's that.
Well, in honor of that guy, let's talk specifically about your television for a moment.
Yeah, I just moved to a neighborhood, actually. I moved to Thai Town. I was in West Hollywood before, in LA, obviously. I moved to Thai Town, which is right between Los Feliz and, some say Feliz, and however you pronounce it, and Hollywood. It's kind of right by the foot of Griffith Observatory, and it's a really awesome area, and I love it. I found a little apartment, and I love it. And it's, I've been just pimping it out.
What does Thai Town mean? I don't know that one.
It's like you have Koreatown and Chinatown and all that stuff, but it's Thai Town, so there's a bunch of Thai food places and stuff.
All right, so like Thai as in Thailand, like not like Taiwan Town?
No, Thailand. Yeah, I'm literally right behind like 8 Thai restaurants. I live right off of Hollywood Boulevard, which is not as glamorous as it sounds. For those who know about LA, they know that Hollywood Boulevard is not glamorous.
So you like smushed together with a bunch of lady boys then?
I haven't seen any Thai people that live here, actually. They're only the restaurants. So I wonder what that's about. Gentrification. Yay! Anyway. Yeah. It's getting really weirdly political.
This is a very socially aware episode. This is good. Yeah.
I know. We're talking about the world, the climate we live in, and so I've been doing that. I went to London for a week to write on some pop tunes, which is what I do. For half of the time, I write pop songs for other people, and half of the time I do the midnight. So I had to go to London and had some sessions there, and that was cool. And then I came back and had to move to a new apartment. So it's kind of been what I've been busy with. And then I released, since the Midnight is growing now, I obviously did a remix of one of Tyler's own songs a year ago, I think, called Lost and Found. We just called it the Midnight Remix, but essentially it is one of Tyler's songs. So the process in which Tyler writes something and I put music to it was exactly the same as if it was a Midnight song. So I did that, and I was contacted a few months ago by an indie band called Scavenger Hunt, who are also LA based, and I've just done a remix of one of their new singles, and it's out everywhere. It's called Never Enough, and I'm really, really happy about it. And they're great guys, and I'm actually doing 3 days with them this week. So because we really got along, and creatively, I think we could do some really cool stuff. So there's going to be a Midnight Scavenger Hunt collabo, I think, somehow. We'll figure out what it is, but it was fun anyway. So yeah, I'm doing a few remixes here and there, and just building it. And people are asking for new, are you guys working on a new EP? And I'm thinking to myself, geez, I just killed myself for 3 months to release a full album. But that's good, though, that people want more, and there is definitely more music. We were just talking, me and Tyler, about, we have a few loose ideas here and there, but we should really start working on new material soon so we can get that ball rolling, really.
Yeah. I feel like you sidestepped my question about your television. I wanted to hear about this TV.
I'm so sorry. That was really selfish of me, and I'd like to apologize. I got a Sony X800D, I think it's called.
Does that do HDR?
It does. It's 4K, bro.
I upgraded to a PlayStation 4 Pro, but I don't have a 4K TV, and if I were to get one, I have to get a good one that also does HDR, and then...
Is the Pro the VR one? I know they have a VR one. Is that?
It's something I shouldn't have actually supported. Essentially, like, the video game consoles are trying to do this, like, new business model where they have, like, a slightly upgraded system during the console life. So it's still just a PlayStation 4, except it has a little bit more power. So some games have options where they run at smoother frame rates, and some games have the option to upscale to 4K. And I believe it also makes the PlayStation VR run a little smoother.
Okay.
But the PlayStation VR is a separate thing. That's a virtual reality headset you buy for the PlayStation 4, which costs like fucking 850 Canadian dollars. It's probably like 600 something in total if you get all the fucking bells and whistles.
Yikes. It's a lot to keep track of.
No. I agree. Tyler, do you have a cool television?
No. We downgraded televisions recently when we moved. We needed a smaller television to fit in our little built-in wall cabinet thing. So we dropped about 5 inches from the television, and we couldn't be happier. So I bought a PlayStation 3 a few years ago, and every now and then when my wife goes on vacation or a business trip or something without me, I'll pull it out, and then I'll get addicted to it for like a few weeks, and then she'll have to hide the cable so that I can't plug it in because I'll get too addicted. So I have to be very careful with my video games because I will lose my soul very quickly.
Yeah, no, I understand. My son hogs my PlayStation.
I think we talked about this last time, didn't we? When you got addicted to and started dreaming about Grand Theft Auto. Wasn't that something?
Oh yeah, actually, maybe the last time we talked might have been when I was in, mid-fever Call of Duty paranoia phase. That sounds about right.
Well, let's listen to another song, and then we'll talk some more, all right? I forgot to ask any questions about the actual track we just played, but we're going to listen to another one, then maybe we'll talk more about it. This was a cool song I dug. This is called Daytona, and it's by The Midnight. And that was Daytona by The Midnight. And I'm back with The Midnight right now. Tim and Tyler, and you're going wild with some synth solos on this one. I guess that would be Tim's department.
Yeah, I mean, I can't claim the praise for that solo. That's one of my good friends from Denmark. He's an incredible synth player, keyboard player called Mass Storm, and he's amazing. So I reached out to him. I said, listen, I could do something on this, but I couldn't do anything that's anywhere near as amazing as you could. Would you mind? Do you have time? Would you mind putting down something? And he just went nuts on the track, and I loved it. So that's the great thing about being able to pull in all these talented people that I know. That track, I really wanted it to feel like those video games that we played when we were, Outrun is a classic example, the game Outrun. I think it's like 88 or 89. And I wanted to feel like that 16-bit video game where you're just cruising down the highways with a blonde woman in your seat and life is good.
With the track Endless Summer, it was almost mostly an instrumental track with some sort of like sparse vocals here and there. I was just wondering, like, Tyler, did you write that stuff for the music, or did you have like this little thing and then Tim, you sort of took those vocals and just sort of like placed them in like a much larger track? I mean, how did that process work?
Yeah, we started together in a room. Tim had sort of the beginnings of the track, and I just sat and wrote the words out, and then we demoed the vocals, and then Tim sort of built out the track from there. But I mean, it was a pretty quick process, Endless Summer. I think I only had a few hours that night to work because I was in LA for only a few days. But yeah, that one started organically, the old-fashioned way, with the two of us in a room together. And Tim, did like he normally does the majority of the actual hours working on the track.
That was one of the first songs that we did for the, quote unquote new album, but it was almost 2 years ago. So, because I had just moved to a new studio, I remember in North Hollywood, and it had been a while since we were in a room together. So I think it was like February of 2015. So I remember just having the chord progression, and Tyler just pretty quickly wrote out these different verses, and how I used to do that, I then take it and move them around and build the track from there. And it could have become a 2-minute song, or as it ended up being, I don't know, I think it's like 6 minutes, because I just wanted to feel like a progressive feeling where it just kind of felt dreamy, and there wasn't really a chorus. It was just more of a vibe. And I think the same night we actually also wrote Vampires.
That's right.
So we did all that in a couple of hours, really. It was pretty fast. Those are the demo vocals. Those are just the vocals that we did. That the vibe was right, and it was just pretty simple. And then the work comes in for me afterwards, where I have to work on the track, which is where I really like to dig in. And I like to, I'll have a basic idea for Tyler to write to, but generally I always like to have the vocals before I really dig into the production, because I have to know what I'm building it around, so that makes it easier for me. I'm not one of those guys that just has finished tracks lying around. I'll have ideas, but I definitely won't spend a week on a track before I have any of the vocals. It's hard for me to finish it without knowing what I'm finishing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You know what, Tyler?
Yes.
Last time we talked, I went on this big rant about how I didn't like the Shure SM7B.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were just like, but it's a good mic. And I'm like, I know it's a good mic, but it records at this really low level and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, after that conversation, I ended up getting one again. And that's what I use now, and I've used since that time. That's a little follow-up.
I'm so glad to hear it. I'm talking to you on the SM7B right now, and it's never done me wrong.
There was this point where I was trying to use I had an audio like a microphone processor that I had bought, and I was plugging the mic in, and I had this cumbersome setup, and then I was like, fuck this. And then I just went and got a Shure again, and then for some reason this one just, something was different. Either I don't know what changed. But anyways, the point is that I'm happy with it, and it's all because of that conversation. So this is that's it. I don't know what the point of that was, just wanted you to know.
Well, I'm glad I can make a small difference in the world, One does what one can.
Is there something you want me to know?
No, I think it's preamp, really. It's a dynamic mic, so you don't have phantom power, and you need a mic pre. That's really it. You just have to have a decent mic pre. And then the SM7's great. The dynamic range is perfect. It's way better than like a tube condenser mic, dollar per dollar, in my humble opinion.
And this has been Mike Talks with Tyler Live. So, Tyler, I see that you've been doing lots of fucking. I was looking at your. I was supposed to say lots of fucking, lots of touring around. I'm not a good interviewer.
This got really awkward. We went from mics to dicks.
Well, I was like a lot of fucking touring, but then I forgot to say the touring part because I was looking at these, just lots of these videos of you like performing, doing some fun performance things and stuff. That was my research, looking at your guys' pages.
Excellent.
And while you sort of promote a lot of your music, Tim is talking about what he's fucking eating and televisions he's bought and movies he's watching.
I know, and I'm going to stop. I promise everyone who's getting really tired. I think it's just because I've been excited about my new apartment, so, don't you dare take that pleasure away from me.
How dare you be excited?
I know.
Well, it's also a little more complicated because Tim's private social media is the Midnight handle for PR stuff and for personal stuff. It all gets lumped into one thing. Whereas, and I'm certainly not, updating on the Midnight because Tim's doing such a good job of it. But I think that's where the trouble may start.
Yeah, it's funny because I just did a show with this group from England called Empathy Test.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because you guys are like the opposite. Because in Empathy Test, it's a producer and a singer, but the singer is the one that does like all the promotion.
Right.
And all that stuff, and the producer just kind of like does his thing in the background. He's got like several projects on the go and stuff. And then like with the Midnight, it's the reverse, right? It's like the producer who's doing all the promo, and it's almost like Tyler just shows up like Krusty the Clown, like just kicks in the door and like sings for a few minutes and takes off. And then like Tim's sitting there scrambling to see if he even had time to hit record.
That's basically, you just described our process.
In Nashville, if you write the melody and the lyrics, you've written the song. But in Los Angeles, it's all the top. You're just a top liner if you write the melody and the songs over a track. So it's it's a little bit of a schizophrenic thing that we do. It's hard to really kind of dice it up. Hopefully, once the live show comes, I will feel like I'm contributing a little more.
Well, the way I look at it is also that it's the end product. I mean, inherently, the job of being a producer is just much more time consuming because Tyler's such a fast writer. It's just so intuitive. That's what makes the process really fun and easy for us both, because it's basically like we were talking about last time we were on the show. I think it's a playground for us. So there aren't really any rules. It's just whatever we dig at the time. And that's amazing. So there's nothing other than ourselves determining what we should do. So because I'm a bit of a picky producer as well, I like to take my time with things. So it's not that Tyler's sitting back going, I'm just gonna, you do this and I'll go to the movies or whatever. The role of producer is just inherently a bit more time consuming, and it's a gift and a curse sometimes, but at the end of the day, I do love when it's something you love. It doesn't feel like work. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it. And Tyler has his own solo career, which is his sort of baby he's been nurturing for many years, and then the Midnight has become that for me, whereas it's not to say that Tyler's just a guest appearance or whatever, not at all, because I believe that the Midnight is that perfect match of both our two worlds, if you will. But in terms of the aesthetic of everything, how it's all dressed up in terms of the 80s look and feel and the Instagram and the images, and that's just me living out my 80s dreams, and it's just fun. So it's never felt to me like there was an imbalance, because when you're doing what you love to do and I'm interacting with people on social media, it's fun for me, even though it's getting to be a lot, but it's also something I'm not looking at as work. It's something that's part of my day where I talk to people, and it's fun. But yeah, I promise no more food posts, guys. I promise.
Well, you have to do it now. I mean, like, you got to stand your ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm going to just post a selfie of me drinking a cup of coffee just to spite everyone now.
Well, you should. I would. Spiting people is awesome. Hey, let's listen to another track. This was a fun one with a guest vocalist. So this is Jason featuring Nikki Flores by The Midnight.
makes you feel alive.
And that was Jason by The Midnight, featuring Nikki Flores, and I'm here with The Midnight. Right now, Tim and Tyler. So, this is a fun song. I always dig these kind of like call and response type songs with like male and female vocals. Mm-hmm. They make me happy to listen to. So, how did you guys get hooked up with Nikki?
I've known Nikki for some years now, and she's an amazing singer-songwriter. She has put out some stuff and has been signed to various labels throughout the years. So, but she's been working as a writer for years for other people. She's written for Christina Aguilera. I have a bunch of songs on JoJo's new album. So she's a working writer and works with a ton of people. But she's also, besides being a ridiculously amazing vocalist, in terms of the technical side, like probably easily the best vocalist I've worked with, just in terms of like pitch and skill and being able to run circles around everyone when it comes to ad-libs and stuff like that. And her ear is amazing, but she also has amazing taste. She doesn't overdo it. So she comes from the R&B world. But we've, as I said, written a bunch of stuff together, and she's just awesome. So it was actually just a session between me and Nikki, and we actually started it right when we released the Days of Thunder EP. So it's been sitting there for a while, and I was really in the mode of The Midnight back then. This is like the summer of 2014. So we just wrote the first verse, the verse that she's singing on, and the chorus, and obviously the ooh part. And we wrote that just being like, this is what I feel like writing, and can we just do something that feels 80s and cool and whatever? And she was like, sure, I'm down. So that idea was sitting there for a while, and about 6 to 8 months later is when when I had her back in, and we were writing something else, and I was like, wait, what about if I had an idea of, what about if this becomes a midnight song? And I had Tyler over. This was when we were writing Endless Summer and Vampires, and played it to him, and I was like, could you do a verse of this? We could maybe do it a duet or whatever. He's like, sure, I like it sounds cool. And then he wrote the killer verse, and suddenly it was this crazy, awesome duet. And I said to Nikki, would you be down to feature on it as a midnight song? She's like, fuck yeah. But that time she was a big fan of the midnight too, so she was all down to go from day one. And that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, it was hard to figure out what that song was about, but then I liked the idea of, the hapless wanderer, this dark, complicated fellow. I had to kind of figure out who Jason was before I wrote my verse, but a year into listening to that song, I prefer Nikki's verse to mine. So yeah, it's just like a fun, weird little song, and I was glad to meet Nikki. She's a very talented songwriter and got a great voice, and it was cool to work with her.
That verse, those lyrics, it's funny you mention it, because me and Nikki were, when we wrote her verse and the chorus, and I remember coming up with the kind of slightly cheesy chorus idea where it goes, oh, Jason, tell me what you're chasing. I said, I know this is super cheesy, but I kind of like it because it's just a bit over the top. It's leaning into what it is so much. And she's like, no, I dig it. I totally get it. And from my point of view, trying to write, it's that stereotypical archetype 80s leading guy, if that makes sense. Almost
a pastiche.
It could be a horror movie, it could be a romantic comedy, it could be whatever you want it to be, but it's that dude that can't really commit, but he's handsome, and it's like he's got all the ladies. It's those classic 80s movies that they've become a cliche, but they've become a cliche for a reason. And I kind of wanted to just do something that really felt like that, which is also why I really tried to model the beat around Maniac from Flashdance. And a funny little tidbit about Maniac, that song by Michael Sembello was actually written for the movie Maniac, which is a horror movie, which is why it sounds a little bit creepy and eerie in the verses, and they actually changed the lyrics to fit it in with Flashdance. Not many people know that.
You know what we should do now?
Play some music?
Yeah.
Nothing talking.
But that was a lovely story. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed teamwork and collaborations and things, and it makes me happy to hear, and it was a good song. I don't know what I'm adding to this conversation right now. Okay, let's listen to another track. This was a cool one. It's kind of like down tempo. It had some nice vocals. This is a track called Synthetic by The Midnight.
Been trying to move on, been black and blue, trying to turn the old into something new. You found somebody, I found someone too. She got everything I need, yeah, but she's not you. I locked my love into the ground, hoped it never could be found. Body slowly shutting down. Nothing
And that was Synthetic by The Midnight. And I'm here with The Midnight right now. Tyler and Tim, we're just talking about... what are we talking about here? Music, writing music, the process, horror films, Michael Sembello, gentrification.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
All the good stuff. Yeah. Synthetic was the one song that I actually sing on the album. I don't know if I think most people know that just because it's a different voice, but not everyone knows. So I'll just clarify. But yeah, that song was written a while ago. You'll notice that the writing style is slightly different just because me and Tyler come from different worlds. And
Denmark.
Denmark. That's how I write. The Denmark sound. Maybe that's true. Maybe there's a bit of Scandinavian pop writing in it because that's what I come from, mixed with kind of the American influences. But it was a song written a few years ago, and I just took it and tweaked the production a little bit because I always really liked the song and it never had found a home. I actually had my publisher, BMG, were interested in it, sending it to Justin Bieber and Chris Brown, but it never happened. It never got done. And they wanted to change a few things. And I was like, I kind of felt like the track was perfect. So I thought, fuck it, let's just put it on the album. And I tweaked the production a little bit and made it fit into the sonic world of the rest of the album, and I think it worked out pretty well, even though it does maybe stick out a little bit in terms of not being so highly driven. But it's nice to have a little lull in the album, in the middle of the album, I think.
How do you feel about this then, Tyler? Is it, you listen to this and go like, here's Tim like horning in on my vocal
No, I think Tim has an amazing voice.
No, let's not talk about it. You hit a sore subject, Andy. Don't mention it.
You just sit there like listening to that song with like your fist clenched, and then the reason why you had to replace that old TV is because you kicked and punched it?
No, I love Tim's voice. I think he's a great songwriter and singer in his own regard. He posted an old song that he started many moons ago, and I helped write a few verses on back in the day. It's called Comets, and he posted it on Instagram the other day, and there was some fucking guy that was like, hey Tim, you don't need Tyler, just do this on your own. And I was like, fuck, shut up, we got a good thing going here.
That was one time Tyler decided to get involved on the Instagram and actually comment on one of the and go, hey you.
I think Tim's a great songwriter. I try and earn my keep with my lyrical wizardry, which really just means that I read a lot of weird books and try and keep Tim happy by writing quickly and pretty. That's what I'm trying to do. Just trying to dance around with my feathers.
Oh my God, I sound like a benevolent dictator right now. It's perfect, this system, this setup really for me, because I don't write very fast. When I'm writing lyrics for myself, or like by myself, I'm very picky, but I'm very slow. It's a very bad combination. So it's perfect because if it was just me, I would never get anything done, and I would find it too much to write a whole album. So in this way, I get to, every couple of years I'll write a song about something that's intensely personal for me, and I can't just spit out the lyrics like Tyler's able to do. So in this way, I really get to just kind of come when I feel something is good or good enough, I get to do that, and then the rest of the time I let Tyler do the hard work of writing all those lyrics and being amazing at that. So it's really the best of both worlds. So Tyler's still the lead singer, and that's what I keep saying. It's not like I'm trying to move in on his stuff. That's not what I'm interested in.
Tyler, what the fuck is Cheddar Life?
One of the VPs left BuzzFeed and started an online lifestyle company. I don't know if it's like a magazine or like an online video thing. They had a studio in the Flatiron building, and I came and sang some songs for them. That's the extent of my relationship with Cheddar Life, and it's really funny that you bring that up because that was a while back.
Because I'm going through the thing and I just see like Cheddar Life. I'm just like, what the hell? Like Cheddar Life? Then I saw you with a guitar. So I didn't know if it was like some sort of partnership with cheese.
I wish there was no cheese that day. No, it's like, I don't know if you have morning shows in Canada like we have morning shows, but it's kind of in the same format. It's a tech startup. I wish them well. I have no idea really what's going on, except that a good contact from BuzzFeed left there and went to Cheddar Life and brought me out to play. So I don't. It's no more complicated than just some other random thing in the sea of random things that I do on a weekly basis.
Your picture on your Bandcamp is like you like a one-man band with like the fucking like the drum on your back. Did you ever play like that, or is that just you posing?
That's just me posing, just trying to look pretty. caught. I sometimes play with a real band on the coasts when I play, but it's usually just me and a guitar.
Yeah, fair enough. That's the cheddar life. That's what I like to say. That's a catchphrase of mine.
Are you trying to get that one started?
I don't know. That's cheddar life, bro. It never works. I look really lame when I say it. I tell you what, we're going to listen to some more music. The Midnight are very talented, and you guys make very lovely tunes.
Thank you.
We're going to listen to one right now. This was a track I think you released earlier on a comp. It's called The Equalizer.
Yes.
In brackets, Not Alone.
Should we talk about the track before? Should we do that? That's mixing it up. Should I introduce the track? Ooh, look at that.
You want to introduce The Equalizer?
Yeah, should we do this? Are we being crazy, next level podcasting geniuses?
Well, then, see, what's going to happen is then I'm going to get that guy who complained about your TV. He's going to complain like, how come they were talking for 15 minutes in between tracks?
Well, I could just say that track was just kind of a fun vibe, and it was actually made for this compilation, and then it was kind of a rush job, but I think it ended up really good, and I really liked it, which is why there is no vocals by Tyler. It's just kind of an instrumental vibe, and then we decided to put it on the album. And a funny little tidbit is that pretty much the chord progressions are the same as the song Jason, which is why, and it's also the same BPM and the same key, because Jason was built from the Jason track, but it's just a half-time feel. So now you know that, and now you can listen to it.
I tell you what, I love tidbits, and I love this song, so let's check out The Equalizer by The Midnight. And that was the Equalizer by the Midnight. In brackets, Not Alone, because there's a robot lady voice that goes, not alone. So, yeah, and I figured that wasn't Tyler. Hey, you got a robot lady on another one of your tracks, too. On Endless Summer, there's a robot lady that pops in, too.
True. It's actually an online voice generator, some website I found, where you can generate speech. You can write down what you want her to say, you can choose the voice, and then it comes out and you can download it as a WAV file. And then by means of a lot of pitch shifting and stretching and, stretching the words so it fits into the track, I've made these weird melodies, but I really think I love the synthetic quality to it.
You also got a track called Synthetic.
True.
That we played earlier.
I just love synthetic stuff.
Hey, you also love, I was scrolling through the Midnight feed, and I'm sure that guy who got pissed off about your TV was probably really happy to read, I'm fed up with juice, and all I can think about is a donut cheeseburger.
There you go.
Did you get that thing?
No, because I was juicing.
Is that something you can get? Or?
No, I just, it's a nice way to get rid of my cravings by sending that into the world and letting people know that I really want this thing, but therefore I didn't get it. I was very strong. This is making me realize that I need to stop tweeting about food. I think that's basically what you're trying to tell me.
Is that part of the LA lifestyle? Is this juicing business? Juicing?
No, it's I don't know if it's LA, but I got a juicer recently and I love it. It's so besides it being super healthy because of all the nutrients, it's awesome. So I figured I'd wanted to do a little bit of a cleanse, detox, whatever you want to call it, but just kind of like give my body a break. And I just did a 3-day. They call it a juice fast, but you're not fasting. You're just drinking juice, and it sort of gives the body a little break, and you get a lot of nutrients. But obviously you can't eat cheeseburgers on that juice cleanse. So
burgers are my favorite food.
You could juice a burger. I'm pretty sure it could be done,
and it would be delicious.
How would you do that, man? You got to get the texture of the beef. How about you, Tyler? Do you like juicing?
I juiced this morning, actually. Yeah, I like juicing. I'm a member of a co-op, which is super hippie, and I get my kale for really cheap, and I have a juicer as well. So
the co-op is everything. I love the co-op. Tyler introduced me to it. It's amazing.
Tim came to the co-op, but life is about balance. You got to have your kale and you got to have your whiskey, and it's boring in between.
Yeah, sounds like something Yoda said once. Similar.
Yes.
Much juice fasting you have to do.
You see, Luke, right? When Luke lost his ship on Dagobah in the swamp, he didn't believe strongly enough in the Force, and he couldn't lift it himself, and he told Yoda, he just says, you ask the impossible, and then he walks away, and Yoda just closed his eyes, effortlessly lifted up his hand and caused that ship to rise from the swamp, and he set it down, and then Luke said, I don't believe it, and then Yoda said, that is why you failed. How does that relate to the Midnight?
Oh my god, that is the most random question ever. Tyler, over to you.
I'm very sleepy today.
The do or do not, there is no try. We've actually, this is an interesting time for the Midnight because we've just sort of stumbled into this thing, and we really enjoyed it in the beginning, and that's why we kept doing it, and we were proud of it even when nobody was really listening to it. And now there are ears and eyeballs, and it's kind of an interesting time to where it's like, okay, what's the next step? We can't sort of continue at the same pace, and we've got to tour and we've got to put out some more music. The next step is going to take a little more effort than the previous steps. Yeah, it feels good though. It feels good to be in this space. My music is another thing, but the folk music kind of has never kind of reached the level that the Midnight is now. So it's a crossroads. We're at the crossroads. We got to figure out what like the next big step is, and yes, we gotta lift the X fighter or the X. I wasn't a nerd enough. X-wing out of the mud or some nerdy bullshit. I don't know.
How do you suppose Luke got that ship working? Like it was completely submerged. You think that would have fucked up the electronics?
Well, it's a spaceship. No, I don't. I mean, it can just be in space, so it has to be airproof and waterproof. No.
I mean, these are the assumptions you have to make because he did get it working. It was like covered in spinach and shit. You know what I mean? Like when that thing came out and all that goo.
Spinach, the classic. he was juicing on that Dagobah planet. So much juicing. I'm so glad we're having this conversation finally. This is what people really want to listen to. People talking about Luke lifting X fighters and stuff.
Well, I could also go back to one of your quotes from your page.
Oh God, no! Please stop.
Here's one you said around Thanksgiving. You might be having the best Thanksgiving ever, but I just made a raw no-bake brownies and they're glorious. And I'm watching Uncle Buck.
Boom, living the dream.
Did you watch Uncle Buck on your new television, or was that before it came?
No, that was on my laptop, and it's so good, that movie. I love John Candy is the best. To me, John Candy is Christmas and Thanksgiving. Like, he has so much heart, and it's always like heartwarming. And that one and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I have to watch it. Like, John Hughes just knows how to bring it. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, I used to watch Scarface on a yearly basis, but when you have kids, you can't watch some of those movies anymore all the time. Those are mine. It's funny, like, I don't have too many comedies on my list of like movies on rotation, but it would be like Scarface and Aliens and Terminator films and stuff, and there's all these things that I can't really watch anymore. That would be my Thanksgiving film, Scarface.
Oh wow. See, Scarface I never got into, but maybe I just need to rewatch it. Maybe I was too young to sort of get it. Maybe I just need to rewatch it.
What I love is it's a silly film in a way. It's almost like a cartoon.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people watch it and then like, I just always loved how ridiculous, like everyone's really, it's like the whole movie is over the top, and the soundtrack is awesome. Like, it's got these really super cheesy, like Giorgio Moroder disco songs in there, and like Rush to the Yayo and stuff. I just love it, just in a bar and like they're dancing and the song is about cocaine. Like, it's just a ridiculous film.
We love ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the 80s were. It was over the top ridiculousness, which is amazing. That's to be celebrated.
You know, it is for sure. I love, my thing is, it's just now, even though we're having a few projects here and there that people are making that are 80s inspired, some have been cool, but a lot of them are like ironic, you know, like it's got to be, oh, if you're doing an 80s thing, it's got to be like a joke and you have a character walk in with a mullet and like big shoulder pads and you play cheesy music or whatever. To me, embracing the spirit of you know, like the 80s stuff means being unironic, because they were unironic. Like, all the cartoons, they're like the most ridiculous concepts, but they're just there, and there's no one winking going like, isn't that weird that we're riding dinosaurs? Like, they just are, you know, because it's the 80s and they can just do what they want, you know.
Irony wasn't invented until 1993.
That's true.
And as much as I enjoy that kind of stuff, even like, you know, like comedy, like I do like, you know, when people wink at the screen and, you know, like, see, get it, you know, because we're in the 2000s and we've seen everything. But there is something awesome about seeing a project that just is just unironic, but also has that kind of 80s vibe to it. You know, Stranger Things took itself seriously.
Oh yeah, it did. That could have been wink wink easily, and I'm so glad it didn't. I mean, there is a cynicalness to today's, because we've been through all the cliches, we've been through all these different kind of tropes, and now I guess as a creator talking to the younger generation who kind of is going to just like roll their eyes at anything because it's like, oh my god, this is so cheesy. And it might be hard to be serious about it, but when something is earnest and it's kind of wearing its heart on its sleeve, I think it's very endearing, and it takes a little bit of guts. I think it's easy to be cynical and meta, you know. It's a little bit easier to be. You keep a distance from it, so it's hard to be criticized when you're not taking it serious, you know.
Tim McEwen, I 100% believe in what you just said. That is a perfect sentiment. That's my thoughts exactly. Because there's lots of projects I see where I'm just like, yeah, it's that distance. It's safe. It's like, it's riskier, because, you know, we talk about with comedy and whatever, like, oh, and comedy and these things take risks by being like offensive or whatever. And to me, I almost feel it's more of a risk to be sincere, because sometimes your sincerity could be something silly. I mean, like, I'm still trying to work on this damn like robot show I've been working on for years. Part of the fear and the excitement of it is the fact that it's like, it's dudes in robot suits and it's not a joke, and it's going to be hard to sort of straddle this line of going like, I make a thing that's unironic, and then I go, well, someone's going to be able to watch this and go, is this guy for real? Like, watch the thing like, what the fuck is this? But that's kind of the reaction I want, because it means that I'm being like true and serious to the vision or whatever, right, no matter how silly or, you know, that sort of thing. But it's riskier, I think. The same with the music too. I mean, what you were talking about before with the lyrics to Jason, you know what I mean? I mean, you can play it safer and take out some of those cheesy lines, but when they're there, it's that great kind of cheesiness that makes something awesome, you know, and like elevates it.
Yeah, and I think to me it comes with a confidence. It's inherently more risky if whatever you're doing with art, entertainment, whatever you're doing, by being sincere, it takes a little bit more guts, I guess. It's easier to play it safe and go, oh, yeah, it was just a joke. So anyway, you know, who cares? But if you're really leaning into it, there's a certain confidence that comes with that. And I think with the Midnight, if we, you know, pertaining to that, there has never been an irony or a distance. But I also don't think that our music lends itself to that, because there is no reason to be ironic about it, because it's just what we like. You know, Tyler's, I mean, I can't speak to his process, but to me, he's no less sincere when he's writing for the Midnight. It's not like, okay, let's write some jokey 80s stuff, because it's not like, I mean, I make it sound 80s, but his lyrics and the way his pictures that he paints are the same as when he's, in my opinion anyway, I don't want to speak for Tyler, but they're the same as for his own stuff and when he writes for other people and himself. And it just becomes this thing when I wrap it in my world, my sonic world, if you will.
Right. It's really nice to have the style to put the substance in. Samuel Taylor Coleridge said, "What comes from the heart goes to the heart." And in some ways, the production allows me to even be a little more sentimental, a little more emotional, not for artifice's sake, but the music itself is kind of disarming, and you're kind of allowed to get a little, some would say cheesy, or some would say emotional, but like the images of a couple on a beach or a lost love or sand in your hair, these are images that you carry with you, and they're no less real whether or not, you know, you want to prove your intelligence by making it ironic or cynical, or real and sincere. And I think, you know, I feel really grateful that for whatever reason, it's way easier to kind of get into that raw emotional, it might be pastiche, it might be nostalgia, but you know, there are parts of that kind of aesthetic that still exist. These images are real and they come from a real place, and I want them to go to a real place. And I think that perhaps that's, you know, why it connects on some level, because, you know, it comes from a real place.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jason, not so much, but some of the other songs for sure.
Well, let's listen to another track here, and this is a cool one. You mentioned it earlier on in the show, but we're going to listen to it now. This is a track called Vampires. Forgot the S. I'll intro it correctly. This is Vampires by The Midnight.
Jokes they didn't quite hear. Frosted window panes and cheap champagne, a face appears, and anything could happen in these cathedrals we're on, where shadow people dance and trade their glance and walk home alone. Staring out the window of the Roosevelt Hotel, watching Midtown empty out and a kiss of farewell. They say we come from nothing and to nothing we'll return, and in between is gravity and bridges left to burn.
And that was Vampires by The Midnight. And I'm here with The Midnight today, Tim and Tyler. That's a cool song. It's got a great sax solo in there, which was fun. Maybe this is bad and they'll take away my 80s card or whatever, but I'm not fond of the sax. But the saxophone solos that you guys have had
I think we need to end this call right now. Thank you. This is good. And bye. Nice knowing you.
You've got some that are really great that I find really catchy. I'll say some sacrilege things right now. One of the songs that I hate the most in the world since I was a kid is fucking George Rafferty's Baker Street. And I will say that publicly.
You know what? I can't even remember that song. That one, yeah.
I fucking hate that song.
I love it.
It gets in my brain, and it's this awful tune when there's these these songs that are in pop culture, and they annoy me, and I sort of analyze them closely because I'm like, what is the fucking melody here? What if this was played on another instrument? I'm not big into R&B, diva type stuff. Beyonce does nothing for me, that kind of music. And when I was listening to Put a Ring on It, because that song drives me nuts, she's singing circus music. You know what I mean? It's this popular song. It's if you like it, then you should put a ring on it. If that wasn't a vocal, then the tune is na 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 na, and it drives me fucking bananas. It makes me upset.
It's the cadence. That's why it's the pentameter, man. The ba-da 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 ba-da. It's not the notes. It's the cadence. All the boys singing around that sack, but the bed go back and da da da. Hollaback Girl and all
I can't do it. All those songs, they remind me, I think it was even Sunglasses Kid I was talking to who said this to me, but it reminds me of childhood schoolyard taunts. That's the cadence. When I listen to any of that music and that's what it brings to mind. Is little kids going na 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 at another kid.
I think that's probably also why it is catchy, because everyone's heard that na 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 na, that whole tone is something that everyone knows.
But that's why I love all this synthwave stuff, because there's these wonderful melodies and stuff, and the whole point of this was a compliment to say that the sax solos in the Midnight tracks are good, and they elevate an instrument that I normally don't like into something that I think is cool. The only other saxophone song I like in 80s culture would be the Lost Boys when the Muscle Guy's playing.
Oh yeah.
That sequence is ridiculous, but that song is awesome. It is a fucking great song.
Yeah, those notes, it's a really catchy, it's a hook in the song. It's very simple, but it really is effective. It's dope. Well, I'm glad to hear you like it. I mean, I think personally it comes down to the musician playing, and fortunately we're lucky to have a guy. I mean, he's almost the third hidden member of the Midnight. Thomas Edinger is his name. He's a Danish musician, saxophone player, and he's incredible. And I've known him for a bunch of years, and he plays on a ton of stuff. Recently, he was just in LA, and I saw him perform. He's touring with Lucas Graham, which is a Danish pop act who is kind of blowing up over here now, which is great. So I got the chance to hang out with him, and he actually put a little bit of sax down on a remix I'm doing for an indie band at the moment. But he's incredible. So really, there's not really any direction involved when I'm working with him. I just go, do your thing. In Vampires, I think I just said, make it, scream, make it so over the top as you can. But he always chooses great notes. Just his taste is impeccable. He has a great ear for pop. He can do soul, funk, and all that stuff. But when he's doing straight pop, which is what this is, it's not jazz, he's not playing funk horns or something. He knows the tone in which he's working within. So he's just got fantastic taste, and that's what it really comes down to me. So when you cast it right, you don't really have to give much direction, I think.
What's this song about?
Vampires?
Are we talking literal vampires here, or metaphorical?
Oh man, I think it's American Psycho era, New York, Midtown Manhattan, cocaine, foggy mirrors. We're all vampires sort of trying to, bite others to stay warm and survive. And it's there's a very desperate sort of pairing up. And it was just kind of trying to paint the picture of kind of a hookup in that kind of world. Yeah, they're all vampires.
Now, I remember last time we talked, you talked about your sort of lyric book that you write or jot down ideas and such. So when I just asked you that question, the first thing you start talking about is sort of imagery. Mm-hmm. So is that what powers your brain? When you start writing, do you focus on an emotion, or do you see sort of pictures that conjure those feelings? How does your brain function when you're writing your lyrics?
I mean, really, it depends. For the Midnight, I tend to focus on images. If you want to do a deep analysis of the Midnight, songs versus my own like personal stuff that I write, it's probably a little more image driven. It's all aesthetic, you know, the whole world. And I think just trying to make little dangly jewelry for the mind, that's a way higher goal than trying to like, you know, tell a moral or like tell the full story all the way. I would much rather just kind of paint a pretty picture.
Yeah, I dig it. I don't know where I was going with that. I don't think I'm on today. I think my brain is in another fucking zone right now. I just picked up a arcade controller so I can play my arcade emulator games with like a proper, like the stick with the buttons and stuff.
Sweet action.
I'm just looking at it out of the corner of my eye because I gotta program it. But we can probably like wind this down. Is there stuff that we haven't talked about that that you guys want to talk about that I may have missed? I'm sure I've missed something.
My TV?
Yeah, we can talk about that again. Does it look good?
We never really talked about. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you notice the difference? Like when you have it in like 4K, have you watched much 4K content?
There isn't a ton of 4K content. I was just joking about the TV.
No, I wasn't. No.
Let's make it quick. There isn't a lot of 4K content, but there's some stuff on Netflix, and it looked great. It looks fantastic. I got a Sony TV, so it looks great. I mean, obviously, it's not the $2,000 TV, but it still looks amazing. So I'm very happy. Anyway, enough about my TV. This was great. I can't think of anything else. I don't know, Tyler. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
I think both of us are in a way more exciting place creatively and sort of as far as the future of the Midnight goes than we were the last time that we spoke. And so I'm glad that people are listening to the record, and we're both kind of starting to think about the next year and what it could look like. So we're really excited to see what the next year brings.
I would like to add an extension of what Tyler just said. I think the last time we spoke, the album wasn't out, and we had we had released 1 or 2 singles. Anyway, the album dropped, and I think none of us had any kind of idea of what to expect. And I mean that completely honestly. I didn't really know the amount of people that were waiting for the album to drop and they would buy it on the first day. So it was incredible to see and feel the amount of support and love and the reach really that we had built over a course of 2 years since our first EP dropped, Days of Thunder, and to see that was insane. It just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, and it's still going, it's still selling, and it's people are streaming it. I've noticed we have 250,000 listeners on Spotify every month, and it's just insane to me because it's only dawning on me now that the amount of reach, and I sort of daily get messages from people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram going, well, you know, big fan of your music, blah, blah, blah. It touches me and it helps me through hard times. And it's just amazing what the internet could do. It started with us uploading 6 songs to Bandcamp a couple of years ago. And now we have this great dialogue with kindred spirits all over the world, and that's the magic. So thank you to everyone who's bought the album and is supporting us and streaming it and listening to our music. It's just incredible. So thank you.
Come see us live in 2017.
Well, that'll be exciting. And Tyler, do you still do that thing where you make like a short EP once a month that people can like subscribe to? Is that still going on?
I sure do. Yeah, it's called The Secret Layer, and it's we're about to put out episode 12. So it's been a full year now.
And that's been working out well? That's been a fun project?
It's been awesome. Yeah, I've written somewhere in the realm of like 60 or 70 songs this year just to kind of keep it going. And I'm going to try and do it again next year. It's not good for making money, but it's really good for creative production. And it's really fulfilling to kind of like check in at the beginning of the day and work your 8 hours and know exactly what you're doing. Because I tend to be kind of aimless if I don't have a project I'm working on.
Yeah. I know that feeling. It's good to have a thing. I know like this year with the podcast was the first one where we actually like have it on a schedule. Usually I used to just do 15 a year, but then I started like a Patreon. And then even though like the Patreon's not like huge, it's enough to show there's people interested. And so it keeps me going to like keep making the show and making sure it like comes out on time and stuff. So it's nice to have that push.
I'm looking at your Patreon page right now. That's amazing. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, there's a funny video on there. I know that thing. So like it's cool to... it's cool. I don't really have anything else to add. Today's a terrible day. It's like someone says something and then like my addition is like, yes, it is good. Like,
go play with your new controller, Andy.
Anyways, guys, it was fun to talk to you.
You too, brother.
Awesome.
The new album is good and people should listen to it. Lots of great tracks on there.
Thanks for having us on, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun.
It's fun to have people on. The show would be pretty dull. I've done a few episodes without a guest. I don't think people care for it it too much. It's sort of like 1 hour of me talking about donut cheeseburgers and watching Uncle Buck. It's like the audience goes like, where's the other people, you know?
Basically my Instagram feed. Yeah. Or my Twitter feed, sorry.
Yeah, just imagine that for 2 hours. Anyways, you guys have a lovely LA day and a lovely New York day. Keep making awesome music, and we'll, next time you have a new album out, new stuff out, you can come back on again, and I'll try and have some questions prepared.
All right, thanks, Andy.
And that was my conversation with the Midnight. Those dudes are super talented, and you should definitely listen to their music, because it is very, very, very good. It gets the Andy Last thumbs up. And that's all I got to say. So I think maybe we'll leave with a track this week. But thank you guys for listening to Beyond Synth. Don't forget to follow the Facebook and the SoundCloud and the Twitter. And hey, if you want to follow some other Twitters, check out Power 85, because that's where Beyond Synth plays every Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch the show early, there's a sort of a live show and a chat room that goes on. That's power85.com. You can follow Power 85 on Twitter at Power 85 Radio. And do it up. And of course, Beyond Synth, the jingles are done by Hoo Ha, and the theme song is by Ogre. Anyways, guys, have a great week. And here's a cool track that I dug from Mitch Murder. This is, I'm going to pronounce it, instead of doing the French, I'll just say this is Coupe de Theater by Mitch Murder. This is Coup de Théâtre by Mitch Murder off the album After Hours. And I'll catch you guys next week on Beyond Synth. Or is it Coupe de Théâtre? It's either Coup de Théâtre or Coupe. I'm going to say Coup. C-O-U-P. My French is terrible. Coup de Théâtre. Au revoir.